Daryl Morey spoke today. That didn't really do much for me. I didn't get much from Daryl Morey, but the Sixers have a lot of other issues that we are going to take a look at. Yaron Weitzman's here from Fox Sports. You remember Yaron. He's got a great book on the process, which a lot of people are not happy about today. They feel that this thing has turned into a mess. They want everybody gone. How did it get to this point? Well, Yaron is here to kind of break it down. You wrote a great piece over at foxsports.com, man, and it kind of chronicles a lot of things about where Ben Simmons and his struggles and kind of how it got to this point. So let's start with this. For the people who are not Ben Simmons fans, leading into the playoffs, okay, you don't like Ben Simmons, he doesn't shoot, and you just don't like him for that reason. Even those people couldn't have predicted what they saw in these playoffs. Or could they? Because they're saying, I knew this is what would happen. This is what I've been telling the Ben Simmons apologists all along, that this is who he is. Are they right? Is this who he is, or is this a different level of Ben Simmons struggle?
Thanks for having me on. We have a yearly explain how we got here thing. This is good. We can circle it for next year. How about yes and no? How's that for a succinct answer to you? So, if you're coming in, the short answer is this is the worst version he's never been this. This was unheard of. Even the free throw shooting numbers were never good, but they weren't 35%. They were high 50s, 60s. 1 year was 70%, which I can get to in a second. So it was never that. In the playoffs, he wasn't this invisible. And I guess against the Raptors, it was good, but it wasn't this bad. And it seemed more, I guess that's how I'd phrase it, right? It seemed more he had trouble finding his position and his place on the court in years past versus this series. It seemed like he was, I use the word scared. Something was off, right? That's a difference. So some of the numbers are the same. So like a lot of the numbers going around are shots taken in the fourth quarter of the second round games. And those are pretty consistent. But the feel I got in the Toronto series, especially the year Jimmy Butler was there, was that it was more him trying to find his place, and he couldn't figure out how to find his place. So, okay, we're going to hang out on the block and wait there. Versus now, the pass on that dunk attempt, that summarizes the whole thing, right? Where he's a wide open dunk attempt and he's passing it because he's so in his head. So.
Yeah, as we all witnessed live, I was there, and he just kind of passed it off, and everybody's looking at each other. Wait, did we just watch that happen? At that moment, and you kind of start your article off with, this is unseen. He's not the most aggressive guy, but when he gets a chance to hammer down a dunk, he likes to hammer it down, flex the muscles, and let you know, hey, I just threw one down. So do we surmise then that not only is this a mental situation, that it might be the point of no return? I mean, is he so far gone now that you shouldn't, if you're the Sixers, anticipate him being able to return to even the player that you might not like, but that he was?
Well, I'll say, forget what I feel. Two of the most important people in the organization clearly expressed their feelings on that one, right? And I know he walked it back a little bit. Was that today? Yesterday? I'm losing track here. But Doc Rivers walked it back a little bit. But
Sunday night he said he didn't know if he could be the point guard of a team that won a championship. Yesterday he said, well, we can work with him.
He thought about it, and then he realized I do know, right? I guess that's what happened. That was
epiphany.
He had an overnight epiphany. It wasn't that he decided to be more PR-like. And the thing that was so jarring about that is, and I mean, you guys, I'm sure have talked about this a ton, is that Doc Rivers was the guy all year, almost literally banging on the table, saying, anyone who says that Ben Simmons is not amazing, you don't know basketball, you're a bleeping idiot, you don't know anything, I don't want to hear from you, I love Ben Simmons. And it all seemed pretty transparently fake throughout the year, just how vociferous he was in his praise of Simmons. And it kind of hit the way he reacted after Game 7 sort of proved that, right? That he didn't actually believe it. He was just trying to build up confidence. So the Doc Rivers reaction, and then Joel Embiid also with two comments where he blamed the turning point was, and the pass on the dunk was bad. To say that was, and maybe it was the turning point of the game, it's something to say that a series you lost in 7 games, including a Game 7 at home against a team who's less talented than you, and you're going to say the turning point, go out of your way to point out that your superstar teammate kind of blew the game basically with one play. That to me says something. It doesn't mean they don't like each other. It's all. He clearly was. It showed his feelings on Simmons, and then he was asked by Kyle Neubeck about bringing the team back together, and he said, "I think I like you a lot, Kyle, but that's a complicated question." And it's really not that complicated. It's complicated if the answer you want to give is one you know you can't give. So that right. So forget my feelings. I think their feelings were expressed. Yeah, I'd be shocked if. I'll phrase it like this. The only way I see that Ben Simmons is still on the roster beginning of next year, there are two ways. One, Daryl Morey decides I'm not trading him at the lowest value because teams are calling and offering these junk packages and we're not going to do it now. Or you bring in another guy, like a Kyle Lowry type, and you kind of redefine Ben Simmons' role and from the start and what his role is. And you have a guy, a lead ball handler, a point guard, and you redefine Simmons' role and what your expectations are for him. Those, to me, are the only ways I see Ben Simmons still on the roster next year.
You mentioned it. You hinted at it. You wrote about it extensively over at foxsports.com, Yaron, and it was in 2017-18, his first year in the playoffs, he averaged 17 points a game. He shot almost 13 shots, and he shot 70% from the free throw line. He averaged 11 points. He shot the ball about 8 times in these playoffs and was the worst free throw shooter in the history of the NBA. So how did we get there?
Yeah, it's fascinating. So there's one thing, like I have reported this, and I'll tell the story and then I'll give my qualifiers, right? So he was working with a shooting coach, a guy named John Townsend, who was an assistant coach for the Sixers. They basically brought him in to work with Simmons for the year and a half. You know, he worked with him when he was injured that whole year. Wasn't much progress at the year. That playoffs, he shoots 70% from the free throw line. Imagine if you're a Sixers fan, 70% from Ben Simmons now, you'd be running through the streets shirtless.
They probably would have swept the series.
Right, yeah, seriously. 100%. So 70%. Brett Brown in the press conference, I forget exactly, but says he's going to work closely with this guy over the offseason. Coach comes back after the offseason, and he's told that Ben Simmons is going to work with his half brother, who's an assistant coach, former low level Division I assistant coach. He never shoots like that again. Now, maybe again, I'm not in the gym, right? I don't know what's going on. I don't know, like, if this was just luck, if there were tweaks that were made that then were regressed. I don't know, but that to me was sort of telling, and it was telling to me in real time, as you said. Like, I wrote the book on this. Like, there are certain things as I started following the team that I'm marking down. When he came back that offseason and was not working with that coach anymore, that's one of these things you mark down is, that's weird. Let's follow this. It ends up, following it 4 years later. But just to never recreate that, maybe it's coincidence. That's a pretty strong coincidence if that's the case, right? He never comes back to that. And it just, to me, it kind of summarized the whole thing, that what Ben Simmons does. And there are reasons for this and good reasons, but he turns inward and he keeps his circle tight and he kind of digs in, and family and the people, closest friends, and those are the people he trusts. And I think part of that is because you have to remember he came up, and I compare it more, it's like a child star comes up in celebrity world as opposed to a basketball prospect, where Ben Simmons, remember, was one of the first big shot prospects to come up in the social media age. And, he was like a star in college and people hated him. They always hated him. It's very straight. Like, everyone hated him. He just always turned inward and kept his family close, and he looked towards that. But I think you surround yourself with a lot of yes men in that way.
This is very interesting because you kind of talk about the fact that he's working with the Sixers, and then his agent essentially says, sorry, we got our own plan here, and we're going to do something different. Does the team then notice, that, hey, this guy's not the same player that we were working with? Like, are they noticing that? Are they essentially believing that he's going to work? And I'm not saying that you're reporting this or saying this, but it's like in their mind that this isn't the same player that we had. He's regressing or not growing.
Definitely saw not growing, right? Definitely saw the not growing part in terms of the shooting, right? But and this is one of the things. I know there's been reporting out. So my understanding is that he puts in the work. It really is. It doesn't mean maybe he's not the hardest working person in the team. I don't know, right? That stuff is hard. Everyone has a different opinion. For most people, and at the beginning, maybe there were some questions about how much work he put in early in his career. But my understanding is he really puts in the work, and that almost confused the coaches more. It's like, we've seen him shoot. Yeah. He can do it. We watch him do it. I don't know why he won't do it.
If you go to your article at foxsports.com, and I encourage people listening to read this article, and if anything, just go to the tweet of the highlights of him. I told you, if you Google his summer league highlights, the man shot the ball. He shot the ball. He made elbow jumper after elbow jumper. So
isn't that clip amazing to watch? Looking back, that clip, I had forgot. That clip is unbelievable. It's like, seems fake, right? It's unbelievable.
You can't even believe that that's him. That he's coming off screens, hitting the elbow, pull-up jumper, swish every single time. I mean, so what happened to that? And it looked like you, in the article you write about that, you're almost trying to ask him about it, and he just, because I've always wondered, no one ever asks him, hey, you shoot all the time before the game. Yaron, you've seen him. I've seen him. Everybody who covers this team has seen him sit in that corner and make 3 after 3 after 3. It's not that he can't, it's that he won't.
Yep, exactly.
Why?
It's weird. Yeah, it's really weird. So I had a back and like a 5-minute, like a legitimate, and I respected it. I was in Brooklyn about a year and a half ago, and I went up and asked him some of these questions. And a side point, it is funny looking back, because then I was asking about the corner threes. And at this point, like the corner three conversation to me has sailed. Like now it's just about, can you figure out a way to be like not afraid of having the ball in the half court, catch the ball and look at the hoop and make an aggressive move, right? I don't know if the shooting, that's almost the next step, but whatever. This was back around the corner threes, and after we hit a 3 and Brett Brown had said, tell his agent and family I want 1 3 a game, and Ben responded by not shooting another 3 ever again. And I went up and I asked him, like, what's shooting? And I didn't fully understand. And if people want to check it out, I think I'm not just, this is obviously pimping my own article, but plugging my own article, excuse me. But I think fans will appreciate, like, it does give you a glimpse into his mindset, just the back and forth where I'm asking him, but I don't understand. And I'm saying this, I'm like, I don't understand. Why don't you shoot it? Well, it's not a good spot. Well, that's not past that. And B, it's not the best place. This is the place where I'm most effective. And this is the place where I help. And then it almost seems like he's worked himself so far into his logical conclusion that it's bad for me to shoot. And I put this in the article too, right? And I've had people tell me that he's told people around the Sixers, I'm not a good shooter. The team's better off if I'm trying to drive and kick, which in theory, like black and white, yes, but that's not how this works, right? Basketball's a team sport, 5 guys working together in a cohesive unit trying to get the best shot possible. If you refuse to do that, you are, even if it might come out of a good place, and for him it might, right? Like a quote unquote selfless place where I want to help the team, you're still hurting the overall offense by just refusing to shoot.
Yeah, and you write in there that he can't shoot and that he won't shoot and that but can he not shoot?
Right. That's I mean, like, listen, is he a knockdown shooter? No. Again, I'm repeating, like, yeah, in practice he can shoot. I know, and that's like no one wants to hear that, right? No,
nobody wants to hear that, because if he sits in the corner and makes 3 after 3 in practice, what are you practicing a shot for that you have no intention of utilizing in the game?
Yeah, I'm repeating, like, I can tell you that the previous coaching staff and all their executives too, they were baffled by it. Brett Brown was at a loss. I mean, that gambit, that gambit when he says publicly, tell his agent, tell his brother, like that was a desperate man with no other idea of what to do, saying like, Brett Brown's at a loss. So if he's at a loss, what am I going to say? The guys who are around him every day.
He gets to the moment you're on where he sees what we see, and he's saying, I know you can make the shot.
Yeah.
I don't understand how, and maybe, you write in the article about Brett Brown finally gets to the point where he says, Jimmy Butler, you're going to bring the ball up. And essentially Simmons does what? Yeah,
that was a Toronto series. So they basically handed the keys of the offense to Jimmy Butler in the playoffs. And that was the first one. It's like there's been 3 of these second-round series, right? The Celtics one, we all thought he kind of were stymied by them and didn't play well. You look back at that like those numbers compared to now, what he did, that was incredible. If he played like that against the Hawks, they win, right? The Raptors series was the first one where they really took the ball out of his hands. They said, you're going to be in the dunker spot. That's the area by the block. The idea being you catch the ball and go right up for a dunk. You're going to be there. Jimmy Butler is going to run. Pick and roll offense, basically crunch time offense. And, transition's fine, but in terms of that, in that specific position, in those specific situations, you're going to be off the ball and lurking in the dunker spot. And Simmons didn't love it. Zach Lowe at the time was the first to really write a story about it and get a quote from Simmons. I think Simmons said something along the lines of like, I don't love it, but I'll do it for my team. And Simmons sees himself as a point guard. He said this on the record. Anyone around him will tell people this off the record. Like he sees, in his view, I am a point guard. I'm a point guard. That's what I do. That's what my skills are. Not only am I a point guard, but I was the #1 pick. I'm a top prospect. Like things should be built around these skills, right? I can do things others can't. This is my build skills. And he did not. I can say like that part of the reason Jimmy Butler was not brought back was because Sixers management was concerned about how that would jive with Simmons and how Simmons would handle somebody taking the keys from him down the stretch of games for the next 3-4 years.
Bizarre right there, because obviously, people, I'm sure you were well aware that people weren't the biggest Brett Brown fans in the world, and it's almost as if he was trying, and the player had more power than the coach almost.
Well, I imagine I've been joking. I don't know which extreme is more. Who did Lloyd Pierce hate these playoff results more, or did Brett Brown love what happened? Like, I don't know who had a more extreme reaction in the last series, right? But they're both pretty good.
That's pretty good. Lloyd Pierce, of course, got fired by the Hawks, and now they are in the Eastern Conference Finals. And Brett Brown's probably sitting there going, "I told you so. It wasn't all my fault."
Exactly.
So obviously, the whole like he can't shoot, he won't shoot. Is there any evidence to believe then that Doc Rivers, who says he has a plan, is going to pull the summer league version of Ben Simmons out of him?
I mean, if it is, I don't think it's Doc Rivers, right? I mean, we just saw it, right? Everyone says Doc Rivers and Simmons connected well. And Simmons, everything you hear is that him and Sam Cassell had a really good relationship. And I think Simmons really enjoyed working with Sam Cassell and the top assistant coach, and Doc Rivers, and it didn't make a difference, right? Not only did it not make a difference, it got worse. And I'm going to bet this, I don't know, but if I'm Ben Simmons, I'd be hurt by Doc Rivers, because again, that was a quick stab in the back, a really quick one, and that would bother me if I'm Ben Simmons. So if Ben Simmons comes back shooting, I don't think that's a Doc Rivers. Like, I'd be shocked if that has anything to do with Doc Rivers. Maybe I'm wrong. That would be more that he finally reached a low point, a breaking point, and decided to make his change. But we've been here before, so I
right.
don't know.
Now, apparently he's not going to play in the Olympics, and that's to work on his skills. This whole, they're going to work on his skills, but should he play in the Olympics? Is it better for him to play?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that say, yeah, that's good being around that kind of competition. And it honestly depends what the summer plan is. If you're really going to rework your jump shot, like if you're really going to do that and even switch hands, like some people there's been talk about that. And he's a right-handed shooter, but like he's a righty. People around him, he's a right-handed in everything he does. Brian Colangelo, which I know Sixers fans, Brian Colangelo, but Brian Colangelo wanted Simmons or thought about asking Simmons to change hands. They knew Simmons wouldn't take on it. He's right-handed. He shoots right-handed. Like when he drives, he shoots right-handed. His hook shots are right-handed. Brian Windhorst said that, who's usually plugged into that camp, said something that Simmons might consider. I don't know. So if you're going to do that, then probably a good idea to not show up at the Olympics. If you want to do some competition type stuff, it's hard to differentiate. I'm of the opinion that it's probably not a bad idea for him to just kind of decompress here and unplug. And to be honest, also after the past year and a half, like with the bubble and just all this stuff and all these things that these guys have gone through, and this was a grueling NBA season for everybody. Like I don't. Anyone who wants to take 3 months off or whatever it is and just sit on a beach, like God bless.
Now, I'm not suggesting that he might not be right-handed, but if he's truly right-handed, what is the backstory of him deciding to not shoot right-handed?
I forgot his dad taught him to shoot left-handed. I forgot. I'll give shout. Kevin O'Connor at the Ringer now has been on this for years. Like I think since Ben Simmons was drafted even. And then Ben Simmons is an article. I don't remember. I think it was a Daily News. Ben Simmons' father gave an interview. If listeners actually want to hear, you can Google like Ben Simmons, his father in the Daily News, or you guys can look it up after New York Daily News. There's a quote. I think it's something like he taught him to shoot left-handed. I don't remember why, but he's right-handed. Like he is 100% right-handed.
Unbelievable. Yaron Weitzman, Fox Sports, great piece on Ben Simmons. He has shot a handful of threes. He made one against the Chinese team in an exhibition game. He made one in the corner against the Knicks one night. He made another one, I can't remember, but he's made a handful of them. So in the few attempts that he has taken, he might be like 3 for 4 when he actually takes the shot. Is it that the crowd erupts almost in such a mocking manner, like when he went to the free?
He definitely hates that. I don't know. Like you think he likes being treated like he's Rudy or like a Make-A-Wish guy? I'm not trying to be,
right.
He there's no way. Or when Joel Embiid's jumping up and down the sideline, like clapping his hands, there's no way Ben Simmons likes that. He's the number 1 pick who's going to start. Like he must hate that. I don't know. He's got to hate. I would hate that, right? Like, and I'm nothing. He has to hate that.
Right, but
hate that.
So do you think that deters him, like the embarrassment of how he is treated for doing something that is so elementary to everybody else in the league but him? I mean, to me, that he completely lost it. He's at home towing the line, and they're cheering for him as if, like you said, this is a charity case. They're trying to will him to make a free throw. and I think he was completely embarrassed by it.
I agree. I would agree. He has to hate it. He has to hate it. I know even though it was meant in a good natured way, but he has to hate it. And I know, there are assistant, there are coaches, like everyone does the armchair psychology thing with him because there's nothing else to do. And people who have been around him, coaches or whatever, say they think maybe it's insecurity or doesn't want to show flaws or anything. I mean, there's a million reasons we can make up. Man, I don't know. It's hilarious, the wrong word. It's pretty crazy that you and I, we might have had the same conversation 3 years ago about a different guy. Like only the Sixers can have two of these guys where we're having these yips conversations about shooting. It's unbelievable. Well, literally, it's just
I wonder how much you're on the drafting of Fultz messed with him, of them essentially saying, we're taking a guy to take the ball from you. And, of course, that guy, did he, witch hazel that guy? I mean, so that he couldn't take his job?
It's so funny because you look back and, so much has gone wrong, I know, but that's such a sliding doors moment where Fultz, this is how I always phrase it, right? I think I read an article, but if Fultz becomes 90% of the prospect that I think literally every evaluator, media and inside the NBA thought he would be, except Danny Ainge. Really, everyone else, that's the thing, Tatum and all that. Everybody had Fultz number one. Everyone had Fultz number one, except Danny Ainge. He saw something that others didn't. And if Fultz becomes that guy, so much is different about this team and organization. So everything we've talked about, it's all different.
People, when he was coming out of college, questioned, that the team didn't make the tournament, and he didn't shoot there either. He shot 3 3-pointers in college. So you look back to all that, should that have been a red flag?
No, that's a good question. To me, it's more revealing, right? So you can say as a red flag, LSU should have, if you're number one pick, those guys always make the NCAA tournament, maybe you should have propped up more. That team was pretty junky, right? That is not exactly a loaded team. Again, NCAA tournament, low bar. I think it's a little more revealing that he chose a random school because his godfather was there, who he was really close with, and he was an assistant coach, and he felt comfortable there. And that kind of goes back to what the things I'm talking about, where just he's somebody, he's very big on family and comfort and going where he knows and this close circle, right? And looking back, that's pretty telling. I mean, he didn't want to go to college. He said this in the documentary, he would have been one and done if the NBA allowed it, right? Or not one and done, excuse me. He would have skipped college if the NBA allowed it. So the shooting part, no. But again, his rookie year, he shot and they won games, and they've won games before. And he's won games in the NBA. And that first season, they went on they won 17 games to close the year and 9-0 without Simmons. So you don't want to prop up random win streaks, but there's
without
evidence that teams with Ben Simmons can win, and even a lot of the numbers with him and Embiid together are really good. It's just we're running into the same issue in the playoffs in the second round. First round is different. First round, you're trimming the fat, right? That's still, you can still beat up on a weak opponent. It's the second round and on when things get tight, and now we have a sample size of 3 series where you see the problem.
I mean, without knowing what his social life is out of Philadelphia, I mean, is he a popular figure among players? Do people? I mean, because people think he's very smug. Apparently.
Yeah, he's an interesting. I think is he popular? I don't know. No, I don't think people dislike him. Maybe when he was younger. Again, he came out a little arrogant. There are some stories, but you can find stories about all these players, right?
Yeah, sure.
It does not seem like with the Embiid thing, right? Let me just go straight to Embiid because I always think both extremes are wrong, right? People say they hate each other. Wrong. Do not hate each other. Do not hate each other. They have respect for each other, even if Embiid throws them under the bus sometimes, right? Anyone who says, "Oh, look, they high five," can you imagine not thinking these two are best friends? Also, completely wrong, right? They are professionals, and it's like if you have a college roommate who you don't love, but you've been through a ton with. You kind of develop a respect and mutual appreciation, even if you get on each other's nerves a lot, right? So that part's fine. Teammates, I think some like him, some. I've never heard anything major negative in terms of people hating him. I don't know. He's a little indifferent. He does his own thing, I think, is the best way to describe it.
So, I mean, I guess I asked that meaning, would people do they want to play with him? What do others say? I want to play with this guy because
that's a good question.
He's a good guy. I mean, I would like to get he's a guy I could get along with, and he's a guy that can help, us win. Or do people in the league look at him almost as this, I don't want to say a sideshow, but that he is a hindrance more than a help?
That's a good question. Short answer, I don't know. I don't know where other NBA players are in that. I would guess. I mean, if you're a scorer, he sets up scores. He's not going to take shots from you, so that part's good, right? He'll give you shots. I imagine, listen, as much he's not this bad. The guy that's not him. Maybe this will be it. Maybe it'll be a Rick and Keel thing. We never comes. I don't think so, right? He's not that guy. It's important to remember he does lots of things incredibly well. An incredible defender. Really good passer. I always push back when people say he's a bad offensive player because that's not true. He generates lots of points, either turnovers, fast break, transition, assists. He's always among the lead leaders in assists that create threes, all that stuff. It's just in the half court and offense. And in slow games, in playoff games, he's ineffective and unwilling to try to be effective. It seems part of the problem too.
That's the thing. The fact that he's ineffective and he's been ineffective.
Yeah.
And hasn't taken that personally the previous times he's been ineffective. That's the concern. So I'll leave you with this, and I think everybody out there should go check out this Fox Sports piece on Ben Simmons from Yaron Weitzman. And his book is called Tanking to the Top, The Sixers and the Most Odious Process in the History of Professional Sports.
Got to change the title now. Tanking to lots of second-round exits. How's that?
Are the Philadelphia 76ers at the point where they are truly considering breaking this duo up that they tanked for?
No one's told me this. I have no idea, but I have to. Yeah, I'll say that. Considering 100%. I'd be surprised if he's on the roster next year. That's me just completely guessing, right?
Yep.
But yeah, they're definitely considering it. We know Daryl Morey is not someone who just sits back. Though he did this year, which is a little weird. We can talk, it's a separate thing, which I think was a mistake.
It was almost like this year they came off that 6th seed. He kind of like trimmed the financial fat. And this team, I think, surprised maybe them by getting the number 1 seed. And now I think he's going to go from fixing the financial problem to now maybe fixing the roster.
I would imagine we see him more aggressive. I would have traded for Lowry at the offseason because the opportunity was here. And deadline, the opportunity was here. But I would agree with you. I think a year of evaluation, a year of all this. Okay, now let's get our hands in there is what I expect. So yeah, I think I'll leave this. The one problem is it's going to be hard. It's hard with Simmons is that, one, you got to trade him to a team that can send you back guys who can help you now and fit with Embiid's skill set, meaning you need perimeter-oriented players who are ready to play on a win-now team. And you have to trade Simmons to a team that can absorb him structurally. We know his limitations make it hard in terms of fit. So that's going to make it hard.
Yaron Weitzman, I appreciate it, man. The book is fantastic. I think everybody should go take a stroll of the book and down memory lane of the process. Everyone's waiting for the 30 for 30 on that. Are you working on that?
Listen, ESPN, call me up. You guys, ESPN, call me. I will be very cheap. I promise.
All right. Check out his piece on Ben Simmons. It's over at foxsports.com. You're on Weitzman here on the Sports Bash. All right, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks.